sitting in his clouds looking down. No man can give you love, not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we are going to go over all of the current events, including some pretty scary ones that just happened in the last 24 hours, and we're going to, of course, talk about what just happened in the last few with our former prez and everything else. So stick around. This is wild. We'll be right back right after this.
Not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down.
Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. What is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Tonight, we have a great show for you, and, of course, if you are new here, remember you can go to our website, marfooglenews.com, to find a full bibliography. If we show you a picture, a tweet, of course, a document, an archived picture, of course, everything is going to be over there on the website. Now, when you go over there, you'll see it's very easy to navigate. It is done by thumbnail, so you'll just look for today's thumbnail. He is moving what? Nuclear winter, and then of course once you click on that, you will find that it brings you to every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today. That way you have the source for everything that I am saying. That way if you say, oh, you know, I've had plenty of comments saying, oh, you said that there were $10 loaves of bread. This takes away from your credibility. I did not say there was $10 loaves of bread. The Americans in the places in America that had $10 loaves of bread said that. Again, when I say something like that, I'm not just quoting it out of my butt. I am actually taking it from a news source. $10 gas. Somebody said, oh, I've never been to $10. In California and Mendocino, it did hit. I think it was like 5 cents short. It was like $9.95 a gallon. So again, if I do say something, just remember, there is a source for almost everything I say. Unless it's my opinion and I clarify that, we have a source for it. Now, that doesn't mean the source is always right, but things like gas prices, that's pretty easy to confirm. As far as like, if this president did this in behind closed doors, then yeah, that's probably rumor or speculation or hearsay. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
The thing is we are careful. We want to make sure that we are giving proper information. It started about, 3 years ago when I really put into high gear when people started sending me emails saying that, they were getting all of their information from me, or they were turning to me more than their mainstream media. So I wanted to make sure that, we actually did a good job. So I do appreciate those of you that do know how much work goes into the shows and don't just think that we're, covering certain things. It's kind of it's very appreciated that there's many of you that do know. All right, so let's get right into it. We have, of course, new data suggests the fundamental model of our universe is wrong, and scientists are racing to solve it. By the way, we all live in a universe. Yes, that's what I said. A universe. Moving on, we live in a strange universe filled with unexplained phenomena that have perplexed humans since time immemorial. Scientists have pieced together a rough guide of the cosmos known as the Lambda Cold Dark Matter Model, ACDM, or more simply, the Standard Model of Cosmology. But many mysteries don't seem to fit into this otherwise well-corroborated framework, especially as our view of space has gotten ever more precise in recent years. Scientists are now especially preoccupied with the intraceable tensions that have emerged from different measurements of two cosmic properties. The rate of which our universe is expanding, known as the Hubble constant, or HO, and a value called sigma 8, it says, which describes variations in how matter clumps together across large cosmic scales. Also, just want to put in, since this does have a relation, that's why people are talking about the James Webb Telescope, or at least they're saying that the farther they go back and these fast radio bursts that have been happening and that they've supposedly been picking up, specifically the one that happened just a couple weeks ago, as far as they picked it up and it sounded like a heartbeat, and it was one of the longest ever. It was over 3 seconds, I think, a piece. Whatever that was, that heartbeat fast radio burst was enough, and they said that if they can keep picking it up and really grab it and triangulate it, then they would be able to discover how fast, if the universe is actually expanding, how fast and how it is expanding. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Again, I know that there are many debates going on in our audience as far as what is going on above us, if there even is an above, or again, if that same stuff is happening below us. We don't know. Again, I know that there's those debates, but I am fascinated by space, and again, that's why I cover it. Efforts to measure these properties in space have puzzlingly returned different values when the Hubble constant is measured based on an observation of brilliant stars that act as yardsticks in space. Its speed is clocked at about 50,400 miles per hour per million light years. However, when it is measured using the cosmic microwave background, the CMB, the oldest light in the universe, it is at 46,200 miles per hour per million years. Meanwhile, the value of sigma 8 is different when measured using the CMB compared to other observational techniques. What this means essentially is that there may be a potential serious flaw in our basic understanding of the universe and the fabric of reality. It says, in response, scientists around the world are now trying to resolve these tensions. So the main part that you should pull out of this is that essentially scientists are now arguing, and basically they're going like, wait a second, that means our entire system doesn't work. This is what we called, and we told you, I want to say almost 2-3 years ago, we said, look at what's going to happen in the next couple years with this, because the entire thing with matter, once that matter thing broke down, and once they found out just like one little thing, it set off this domino effect, and essentially all of these different things were based on a theory that was based on something they thought was factual, or they had down to a T. But then once that one thing changed in the middle, everything started falling apart. So essentially, they're saying that a lot of other things are going to possibly fall apart, like theories that we grew up with. Or they could just be telling us that because they're about to tell us, feed us some sort of, their at the moment truth. Who knows? If it's their truth, then I guess we've got to believe it, right? Either way, Dex, what do you think about this as far as, we remember when that happened, when the whole the matter thing happened, and we were like, this is going to change everything, and now other things are falling apart.
Yes, I remember we talked about that. This is exactly what I thought was coming. They're going to start all of these calculations that they've used are just going to start to fall apart now, because it was based on theories, and now there's new theories and new measurements that are taking those and basically turning them upside down. So we really don't know what they've been teaching us and what they've been saying. A lot of that is just, again, it's theoretical.
It is, and that's the thing. There's have been so many people going up in space, which is funny. They say that we have more knowledge of space than we do of underwater. It makes you think, why don't they spend more time researching, what's here down on Earth? Of course, now recently, since the whole UFO discussion, and of course, videos that have shown, UFOs or UAPs popping out of the water, it makes you wonder. Either way, moving on, Facebook's new AI can tell lies and insult you. They're essentially saying that their chatbot that now is available to pretty much anyone. It says that their new artificial intelligence chatbot could write insults and lie to you, the company has warned. Meta's BlenderBot 3 chatbot has been released to the public for users in the U.S. to try out. It says the company claims that the AI can search the internet and chat about nearly any topic. It's even been given the ability to self-improve and learn how to communicate better through conversations with humans. It says, however, while the bot is designed to help Meta make better AI-based conversational systems, the tech giant has also admitted that a few behavioral problems have popped up. It says in an FAQ about the bot, frequently asked questions, Meta said that users should be aware that despite our best attempts to reduce such issues, the bot may be inappropriate, rude, or make untrue or contradictory statements. So, seems like it's getting closer to human. And then, of course, it says the bot's comments are not representative of Meta's views as a company. That should not be relied on for factual information, including but not limited to medical, legal, or financial advice. I can already see where this is going. They're going to ban this AI bot from Twitter or wherever they end up using it. And of course, I know it's the Facebook bot, but watch, they're going to give it rights, human rights, and then they're going to ban it and cancel culture it because it makes watch it end up being a right, like an alt-right chatbot. I could see it. Would you be surprised? I highly doubt anyone would be surprised right now, going as all of the AI systems that we've seen so far have either been offensive, have actually had racially charged things out of their mouth, all of them. And you know why? Because they're basing their chat and their practice off of human beings. So if you are going to use imperfect targets to mimic, then you are going to end up like an imperfect target. By the way, Olga Tehran, thank you. Olga Tehran, I think that's how I'm saying it right. So thank you, Olga. I appreciate you. And thank you for your support. Jolene Rice, thank you for your support early on in the show. And then Effin Britt, thank you so much for subscribing and welcome to the Marfia. Remember, anytime I shout out to new folks here, make sure to just say hi to them if you can. If you are new, let us know in the chat. We always like to say welcome and make sure that you feel good here. All right, and then why Amazon's dead grandma Alexa is just the beginning for voice cloning. So we, of course, have talked about the AI bot and this. Now, what Alexa is possibly capable of doing and what they sampled is that Alexa is able to clone a voice. They say that they only need a very small amount of voice to essentially clone or do... Dex, what do they call the face... the face things, I'm having a brain fart here. The deep fake. Yes. So they can do the deep fakes on faces. Now it sounds like Alexa and probably others have already developed something that will be able to fake your voice. Now, I already knew about something, an app called like Robins something or Robinswood or something like that would be able to do this, but apparently this is getting really, really a lot better. And why they call it the dead grandma is because at some point they used an example, say a grandchild just lost their grandmother. Well, if you have clips of your dead grandmother, you could feed it into this, and then you could say, "Hey Alexa, can you please have Grandma finish the story of Wizard of Oz?" And then your dead grandmother will basically, in her voice, will read you the rest of the book. Think about that. And it will be mimicked so close that you won't be able to tell that they're gone. You'll even be able to have conversations with loved ones that have passed on because they're going to absorb that voice. Well, I have a warning about all of these things, and people really need to remember this for down the road when this is happening, and it's a funny parlor trick. You have given them your DNA. You've given them your fingerprints on your phone. You've given them your iris scan. You've given them your facial recognition. You've given them pretty much everything. You've given them access to every keystroke on your computer and on your phone. don't click TOS and give them your damn voices. I mean, come on. That's probably one of the last things. And I know that they could just grab it without you knowing, but people are going to volunteer for this. They are going to click TOS. They're going to say, I'm not a robot. And they're going to click, find the idiot in the picture, and they're going to click all of the ones that apply of our current prez. And they are going to approve this kind of thing. Don't do it. It's one of the last things that you haven't approved so far. Evolution of text-to-speech technology is bringing us closer to convincingly human-sounding voices. So what else this means? This means that if somebody comes on TV and says something and it's an important world leader, well, anything can be fake now, including not only the world leader's face, but then their voice. If they are a prominent leader or a prominent celebrity, they can basically make any celebrity, just kind of like the Tom Cruise deepfake channel. And by the way, the imitator on that, the actual guy who plays the Tom Cruise deepfake, he actually does a really good imitation. But imagine if it was Tom Cruise's real voice. Now, that's a rare case where the imitator sort of looks like him enough for the deepfake to work perfect, but his voice isn't perfect. And nobody's really is. But what they're saying is this new technology will be. Imagine any leader, say if they had our current prez come on and say, if somebody hacked into a news station, had him come on and say there's a nuke headed for us and whatever else, and want to say goodbye, but, hey, look at the bright side. You're only paying $9 for gas now. Pretty scary. Dex, all right, when is this, do you think this is going to come into play where we're going to be able to do this as a civilian?
Oh, sorry, Adam. Had a technical issue. Yeah, the thing that bothers me about this is it's already here. We just don't know it. We don't have it necessarily on our computers, but the technology's there, and we will soon. And it's not just that we're going to see potentially or not be able to trust what we see on TV or what we see in the media. People are going to use this as a new form of hacking. So think about if you had this technology on your computer or on your phone or something, which it's not going to require that much processing power to do. I mean, you could make a phone call. You could have somebody call and sound just like your boss and give you a raise, right? Or, call into the HR department and do something. Or you could have you could call a radio station and purport to be a celebrity and not have to use a celebrity impersonator. You would be using the real voice, or at least the computer version of the real voice. So there's going to be a whole litany. And now what's going to come from that is they're going to turn around and have to create some sort of voice identification, because then they're not going to be able to know if it's the real Dax or if it's a fake Dax. So they're going to then come out with new technology that tells us how do we authenticate people. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but I can only imagine that's going to be like the next step or the next scary step, so to speak, of the tech that they're going to roll out.
Well, and so one thing that I saw, and this was all over TikTok and other places, this woman said that, and this was like a mystery that went around TikTok, and of course if it's big on TikTok, then it gets brought over to Twitter. So they were stating that this woman was at a bed and breakfast in like Mexico, and if any of you saw this, let me know in the chat. And somebody called and canceled the actual reservation while she was there, and somehow so it's basically the Airbnb holder actually called and had a message put on their own answering machine that sounded like the guest right when they got there. And there's a clause in a lot of the Airbnbs that if you already arrive, or if it's so many days before or one day before, that they get to keep that deposit, or they get to keep the money for it. Or you paid for the week. If you canceled it on your end, then that's your problem. Now we've moved on. But what this lady said is that she didn't cancel it. And she goes, well, I didn't cancel it. And then the person played back an audio message that sounded just like her. I wonder if there's technology like this already at play. And of course, I do know up 3 years ago, they had something like this, if you had enough clips of somebody. What I didn't see on that story is if that woman had any kind of public speaking jobs, like if she was on TV or somebody who is in local office, or somebody who would have a lot of clips of her speaking out there, because that would be relatively easy to do if they did have that. Or they get into an open Facebook. A lot of the older folks that I know, they just have an open Facebook that, anybody can look up by their name. And then you can go to the millions of videos that they've posted of their family, gatherings or whatever. And then boom, snatch your voice. Think about the possibilities of using somebody's exact voice. I know some of you have probably had, nasty thoughts of calling and pretending to be somebody else, but again, now it's going to be easier than ever. By the way,
hey, real quick, J-Strum 55, Adam, he said Val Kilmer lost his voice and they totally recreated it for the Top Gun movie, and I've heard about that. Yeah,
that's right, because Val Kilmer got some sort of, he has cancer, right? Or did he get his esophagus or something happened to where his condition stopped him from talking, but they ended up recreating it from all sorts of audio. So that's a use in Hollywood, but we're talking about when regular hackers can get a hold of that. By the way, Lisa Douglas, I want to thank you. Last show out, you said, thanks, Adam and Dex. I'm the farmer from Iowa you talked to in June. Lisa, I totally remember you, and thank you for being the last one out last show. And then, of course, you owned the mid-size farm and gave us some really great, actually a great call, basically making us feel a little bit better about the farmland and what's going on. Be Real Beast, thank you again for last time. At K-Rec, Tina Smith, Paul Susan Lee, and FG, thank you. Olga Tehran, Jolene Rice, and then Kenny Crowder. Good evening, Adam Dex, and the best mods on YouTube. Hello, Foogle fam. Have to say hi, be safe, and love your way. Thank you. And then Kanos Kid, I appreciate you, says, I recommend that everyone read, quote, 1 Second After, and the 2 following books by William Fortune. It says, an eye-opening view of life after an EMP strike. There's actually quite a few books. I would love to put a recommended book list on our website that are about kind of the realities of EMP or just in general. There's a lot of different scenarios that could happen that people just don't want to think about. I just watched a movie the other night. It was actually no. I'm sorry. I'll correct that. I watched the movie for like the 5th time. World War Z was playing, and there's a scene in it where he meets some prime minister. It wasn't the prime minister. It was somebody high up in Israel, and basically their country had made huge walls 3 days before the movie zombie infestation, and they knew beforehand. And that's the one with Brad Pitt where the zombies were climbing the 80-foot wall and turning each other into a ladder. It was a huge blockbuster hit in 2012. Well, in a part of the movie, he said something that just totally rings true. And by the way, that was before CV and everything. He said that essentially people don't want, what was it? He said people don't want to think about anything bad happening until it does. Nobody thinks anything bad will happen until it does. And then he goes on to say, he says it always does. It's just human nature. It's our human nature to think it will never happen to us. And that's what you see time and time again. Every interview of anyone on local news that had a bang bang event 3 doors down. I just can't believe it happened in a neighborhood like this. Really, why? Humans live in your neighborhood. I just cannot believe something like that would happen here. If that doesn't sound like privilege, right? Well, somebody got murdered in my neighborhood? How dare them? Amazon drones could see directly into millions of homes after major iRobot deal. Creepy stuff. So it says Amazon is about to get its hands on the maps of millions of homes after it acquires robo vacuum cleaner company iRobot. Dex, is this not, like we talked about this specifically with these damn vacuums. When the smart robots, and we talked about it with the drones that they did for security, the Ring, I think it was Ring that did a flying drone that would essentially take off and fly around your house and check it every once in a while. Everybody was talking about it, and we said, this is mapping your house, you idiot. And these iRobots, these robot vacuum that basically get the entire full layout of your house. Now Amazon's about to acquire them, and now Amazon is about to get all that. What do you think about that, Dex?
Well, it's certainly kind of creepy. And, when we first started covering this technology with these robots being able to do that, and obviously there is a value to it with the robot being able to map your house. You can say, hey, go clean the kitchen. You don't have to just say, hey, go clean, and it just randomly goes, right? So there's advantages, and there's also things like those of us who are pet owners. If you ever had a robot run over, an accident from the dog and then smear it all across your house, that is a horrible event. So having, these more advanced technologies are really great, but then they come with this risk. And in the case of iRobot, their terms of service pretty much allow for them to take and keep and upload and store and use everything that they get. And so I guess all that's just going to transfer over now. And we've seen firsthand what Amazon does, especially with turning over Ring doorbell footage to the police at on demand, basically, without even letting the homeowner know, and everything we just covered with Alexa and the rest. So there's no reason for us to think that it's going to be a privacy centric solution. It's going to be probably more of a privacy invasive solution, just like the rest of their line of products. And it's kind of scary when you think about it. And by the way, there are companies out there, because I did the research, that do have, they do say they're privacy oriented, and they say they do things like only keep the pictures on the robot and don't upload them to the cloud and stuff like that. But, it all comes down to a level of trust. But in this particular case, we knew right off the bat that they were storing all that in the cloud, and they did have access to it. And now apparently Amazon does.
And actually, Russell Brand did a pretty funny video on this just a few days ago. So we covered this like 2 years ago, but somebody like Russell Brand touching on a subject like this is really great, because it brings it to, over 5 million people, or his average views on his videos are, around 1 million, viewers. So he touched on the fact that Ring, I want to say it was Ring this year gave without a warrant at least 12 times, and they say there could be more, but at least 12 times they gave away footage from your security systems to the police without any kind of warrant, without everything. And they said that they were doing it in good faith. And Russell Brand essentially goes in and talks about how this is like, he joked like, oh, yeah, we'll just leave it up to my doorbell. He said, remember when doorbells used to just go ding dong, and if you didn't want to answer, you just didn't go to your door? Now your doorbell will call up the police and go, I think there's a bad guy in my neighborhood. This is where we've gotten, and this is where we warned you. We saw when Amazon did the patent. Was it Amazon? I want to say it was either Amazon or it was Ring. Ring is owned by Amazon, right?
Correct.
So Amazon did the patent so they would be able to connect these to facial recognition. And once we saw that, we said, what's next? And we said, they're most likely going to connect this to police departments. And now the police departments want this. In fact, police departments are paying residents and business owners up to $500 a month or a year. Either way, they're paying to essentially place a camera on your door or on your business, and they have access to it. So the only catch, you get to keep all the stuff, but they get access to it 24/7. So if it's a 7-Eleven and somebody gets popped right in front of it, they can instantly go. You say, oh, well, that sounds great. They're going to catch lots of they're going to catch lots of bad guys. Well, guess what? They're also going to have facial recognition for every person walking in. Maybe somebody is falsely accused and they just go in to go get a Gatorade, and then 5 minutes later, there's 20 cops and a SWAT team at the 7-Eleven. It's where the gray line kind of starts getting blurred, and then it just gets deleted altogether. We are heading into a very scary time where there will be absolutely no privacy, and there already isn't, but they aren't telling us out loud there is. It's at least there's an illusion now. There won't be an illusion in the short future, and people don't realize this. People are denying it. People are downright saying, it's not that bad. Exaggeration. It's not an exaggeration. It's happening, and we've shown you every damn step of the way. We've shown you from the patents to it happening to now it's in final stages to now your damn thing has artificial intelligence and facial recognition. Think about how much since I even started this show, since Walmart and other places have now integrated this facial recognition into their forensics. Walmart and Target have forensics, for gosh sakes. So think about how much the world has changed since I started the show. We literally had none of that in the Walmarts when I started 5 years ago. Now it's like you have gates that basically draw you into a Walmart like cattle. I mean, literally gates open up like your cattle going to the next part of the barn. And then you have to, and now they even have gas stations that they will not let you in. And by the way, the people are not letting you in. You have to look up and smile at the camera up above. I showed you this. I did a video, and it was in Tacoma, Washington, and it required that you look up at the camera, and then it did facial recognition, got a full scan, and it did green or red. And I showed you my wife accidentally got basically misidentified the first time, and then it identified her again, and it let her in. So it basically said red. And we only had cash, so for us to pay for gas, we would have had to like get a stranger to walk in there with gas. We were almost out of gas. So think about that. When it's essentials like gas or food, if you can't go into a grocery store in the near future because you looked up and it says, oh, you look like, Daryl Dinkins. Because Daryl Dinkins is a thing. Freaky, freaky stuff. All right, and then before, we have a special guest video, Green Hill Road. Thank you so much for subscribing. Welcome, Green Hill Road. And SSR Arrow, thank you so much. I appreciate you subscribing. And thanks everybody that just popped in. Looks like over 4,300 here. Thank you, guys. I welcome all of you. We're going to talk about the solar activity. In fact, we have a special guest. Before we do, I want to remind everybody, whether it be solar or any other event that knocks out our power, you can have a backup. Now, most people are looking into a generator, whether it be gas or solar. Most people are actually turning to solar now for obvious reasons. Gas is at $7 to $10 a gallon in some places. So most people are trying to stay away from the pump at all costs. Literally at all costs. If you have not checked out the Energy, this is one of the best solar generators on the market. It is one of the best designed ones as well. As far as this one can be expanded up to 96 batteries. And what's even greater is you can do these in stacks of 5 that you can carry. And again, this has no external wires when you stack. Whereas their competitors, they do expansions, but they have these chunky, 3-inch thick cords that go from each battery, and it ends up being, twice the size. So this is also one of the most efficient. It's very easy to use. All of the batteries have 1,000 watt hours, so it's very easy to do the math. And it's also one of the most flexible as far as charging. If you get the supercharger mod, you can actually triple from 4 panels per battery to 12 panels per battery. Now, if you don't have a panel yet, if you just want to get this and then get panels later, you can actually get panels pretty much anywhere. You can go and shop around for panels, but when you get their solar generator from them, you can actually charge this from the wall as a giant battery bank, and essentially if you have the quick charger, you can charge it in about the same amount of time as having 4 panels. Now, when it does hit the fan, though, the great part is this is absolutely silent. It does not make any sound, and it can be inside your home. It can be hidden inside of a bedroom. It doesn't have to be out on the back porch going and letting every single person within 3 blocks know that person has power. That's why people are looking at this. On top of not using gas, there's no noxious fumes, and they are much less maintenance. You don't have to fix any motors. That's another great part. So go to marfooglenews.com/energy. We know that this unit, even just the first ones that shipped out, we've already had people say that these have saved the day. As far as they had rolling blackouts in Michigan, they had rolling blackouts in California, they had all sorts of issues that have happened, and people just kept going like normal because they had the Energy solar generator. So check it out. You can get up to $170 off with the use of our link. That's marfooglenews.com/energy. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. You're not only supporting yourself and getting yourself backed up with power, but you're also helping your favorite channel. Thank you so much, and we appreciate it. All right, and then we're going to be playing a guest video. We have Wages telling us about the recent very big kind of solar activity that just happened here. So I'm going to switch over. Dex, if you need to say anything beforehand, let me know, because I'm going to switch over the audio. Okay. So we are going to switch over. This is Wages World, and this is the recent activity. Now, we've been having Wages World come on anytime there is any kind of activity. We have also placed his channel on our website, marfooglenews.com, and you'll be able to find his channel at the very bottom of our page. Also, very easy to spell, WAGES World, Wages World, and he follows all of the solar activity very, very closely.
Glad to be here with the Foogle fam. Just going to give you guys an update. So what we got here, guys, is we got an unexpected geomagnetic storm. We got to a G2 storm, and it's a moderate storm. But what's newsworthy about it is that nobody thought it was going to happen. So let me start to explain to you what actually did happen. Now, you can see their forecasting here, right? This is for, like, right now into the future. The G2 storm is not even there anymore because it happened before this. They are forecasting us to go back up into storm level here in just the next few hours. Now, whether or not that actually happens, that's to be seen, and I'll explain here in just a second what that actually means. But you can see the G2 storm here, and we kind of tapered off to a G1. So, nothing huge is coming from this, but we have seen some effects. So let me show you what's going on with that. So this is your culprit right here on what caused the geomagnetic storm. This is what we call a coronal hole. And this is coming from a satellite that sits out in front of the Earth, always looking at the sun, called SDO. It's got a sun filter on it. It filters out different extreme ultraviolet light. And what this is looking at is the 211 angstrom of light. And when we look at that specific spectrum of light, what we get is a specific gas that you can look at. So you'll see these in different colors and different angstroms. And the reason is because we can see different features because we can look at different gases. So I hope that helps people understand exactly what's going on with the actual capture here. But you can see how the corona of the sun opened up. This is not a hole in the sun. This is actually the surface, okay? So when the corona opens up, it exposes the surface out into this blank space, right? So we're connected to it by a magnetic connection line. And what happens is these particles from the sun, the surface, are able to flow out when the corona isn't there. Now, they're always flowing out, but they flow out way faster and way more when the corona opens up, okay? So that's kind of what you're seeing with the coronal hole. Now, these are very hard to forecast, because it's kind of hard to know exactly how much is coming out of this thing. They had this one forecasted at a 4 on the KP, which is not even storm level. This is why it took everybody by surprise. People were jumping up out of their beds trying to go find their Aurora photographers were jumping up out of their beds trying to go get some captures, because, this is completely took everybody by surprise. Okay, guys, I would show you some of those Aurora photography, but I can't because of copyright issues. And they're few and far between sometimes, so they really guard those really tight to their chest. So I would encourage people to just kind of Google today's date and Aurora, and you're going to see all kinds of beautiful pictures. But anyway, you heard me say that we were going to possibility of going back up into storm level. Well, this is a capture of the sun from the 195 angstrom, looking at a different gas. This is that big hole I showed you just a second ago. And another hole opened up behind it. Okay, these things can open up when and wherever they want. And that's exactly what happened here. But you can see how there's kind of a break in between these two holes. So that's why you're getting a break of time in between what they're forecasting the storm levels to be. Now, they're only saying this one's going to get to a G1. And it probably wouldn't even get there unless we were already being impacted by this one. Our magnetic field needs some time to recover before it starts to thin and other stuff off. I've talked about double taps here before with CMEs. This is very similar. Okay, guys, this is a magnetopause model. This is showing space weather coming and hitting our magnetic field. The sun's off to the left. What you see in here, this is our bow shock. That's the point where the solar wind meets our magnetic field. And what this model is representing is magnetic pressure on our planet. And this is a really good way to show you how space weather can affect us. And you can definitely see these waves coming in. And let me just clarify here. This red right here isn't typically this big or this deep. Sometimes it's not even there. So you know that we're getting impacted by a good amount of solar weather when you see signatures like this on this model. This is a different model, guys. This is from Australia, okay? But it's really simple to understand, and I love this one. I wish people would use this one more. But again, this is showing you the bow shock. The sun's off to the left. And every once in a while, what you're seeing on the circle here is where the satellites orbit. A lot of them, anyway. This bow shock will bounce around when we're getting hit with space weather. And sometimes this line will actually get, like, back here. And it exposes the satellites to the complete just solar weather or space weather that's impacting us. If this bounces back here, the satellites have no protection from our magnetic field when that happens. So that's why these things can affect satellite operations. And what happens is the denser particles will be in that area, and it causes drag on their orbit. So they actually have to make adjustments from the ground to keep these things in their correct orbit. I really like this model, though. I love the simplicity about it because it gives you everything you need to see. Any other data point I've ever shown you guys, it's actually up here if you just look. I'm not going to go over that tonight because that tends to be a little bit boring. But I just wanted to give you a basic look at what we got going on here. And this one here is a really good way to show it to you. Okay, guys, this is what we can expect during a G2 storm. This is NOAA's chart here. And it's showing you the conditions you would expect to see in relation to the actual storm level. Please take a screenshot of this or go over here and just kind of Google it. You'll be able to find it. It's real easy. And look at this stuff because it will really give you a good idea of what could be expected. Now, on G2 storm, it says high latitude power systems may experience voltage alarms. A longer duration storm can actually cause transformer damage at higher latitudes, which means closer to our poles if you're living up there. And then they go into talking about spacecraft operations. This stuff can affect, like the ISS and all that other stuff that's out there in space. Okay, guys, this is something cool I wanted to show you, too. We've had another sun diver, and this one really showed up really well, so I'm going to show it to you guys. And what a sun diver is, basically it's a comet or sometimes a meteor or whatever that is in orbit around our sun already, but through time it actually gets sucked in a little. The orbit becomes tighter. So every once in a while, well, actually quite often, you will see them dive straight into the sun. And that's exactly what I'm getting ready to show you. Now, this is on SOHO. It's in a similar position to the other satellites I was showing you, but it's about 1 million miles closer to the sun. So if you look here where my cursor's at, just kind of in this area, let me just go ahead and show you as it moves here. It's right here. See how it come out of the background? And that's why I had it back here so far. Most people would miss that. But I've been looking at these things for a long time, so I kind of catch them. But you can see how it speeds up. You can even see a tail there. So yeah, so let me zoom in for you. Okay, we're zoomed in, and it's right here. So watch what happens here. It'll start speeding up as it gets closer to the sun because the sun starts really affecting it. And here it goes. Yeah, we all know what that looks like too. I'm just not going to say it. Anyway, as you can see how it starts to really speed up here. And see how, it really dove that direction. Now, sometimes these things are called sun grazers. And that's what this thing would have been if it had actually made it and got slingshotted back around in its orbit. This thing got ate up. The sun ate this thing for breakfast. I can tell you that right now. Now, sometimes these things can induce CMEs. This one didn't seem to, but it's just very interesting, and it's really cool stuff to look at. but these things can actually influence the sun enough to cause eruptions, and that's really why I'm showing it to you. But this one did not do so. So, that's just a really cool thing to see. Okay, guys, this is a look from a different satellite, and we don't always catch these sun divers on two different satellites. This is from Stereo A, and this is a satellite that's kind of got a side view of Earth. Earth would be like over in this direction, but way far away. So from this satellite's perspective, you can actually see this comet diving in there again. Okay, it actually shows up really well, and especially here on Stereo A, we don't always get a clear picture of this. So this is kind of cool. Now I know everybody's probably looking at these eruptions. These are all off the backside, and that's why I didn't talk about them, because they're not going to affect us. But yeah, so that sun diver is a really cool thing to look at, and I wanted to show it to you on two satellites because, again, that doesn't always happen. So just a short recap here, guys. We got into an unexpected G level 2 geomagnetic storm from a coronal hole. We are expected to get into storm level again from another coronal hole. So that's kind of the basic idea of what I was trying to show you guys. And if anything else happens, I will definitely let Adam and Dex know. And I'll at least send them an update or what have you. And I love the Foogle fam. Adam, Dex, love you guys.
All right. Thank you. And that was Wages World. And it looks like very awesome, Wages, again. I think he cut that short because I said, you don't have to thank us for coming on. It's actually a really great thing to have Wages on, and Wages pays attention to this. And you may not think this is going to get crazy now. We know for a fact that around 2025, in just the next couple of years, as we get closer, this is going to get crazier and crazier and crazier. So if you want to know everything that's going on with the sun, then make sure to subscribe not only here, but to go over to Wages World's channel and subscribe to him as well. Now, when you go there, it's very easy to find. Just look up Wages World, and this is his profile pic. So remember, head over there to Wages World. You can follow him or, again, subscribe to us, and he will have some regular updates over here as well. And we want to make sure that we're bringing you guys a lot of value as far as being able to track this. It's going to get heavier and heavier. We have the solar maximum in 2025, and this isn't just a normal kind of cycle, because this goes on top of the many, many cycles that they have seen, and this is a cycle within a cycle that's going to be a potentially very, very hazardous one. They say it's going to be one of the most unpredictable and possibly the strongest that we've had since we of course have recorded it. So make sure to follow, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. We're closing in on 187,000. Thank you, everybody that is joining us tonight, and thank you so much. All right, and then Green Hill Road, thank you again for subscribing, SSR, and everybody else that just popped in for that. All right, we're going to be moving on. Thanks again to Wages World. That's... You probably had that recorded and then cut off the thank you. That's pretty funny. Wages always does such a really good job. He put that together in a short amount of time, because he's got to turn it around very fast because it's time sensitive. So amazing job. Solar flares will increase, cause problems on Earth through 2025. This is exactly what I was just saying. It says the sun has been very active lately, which could cause a few problems for us here on Earth, according to NASA and, of course, NOAA. It says, while the solar cycle is not yet at its peak, the space agency said activity has already surpassed predictions. Solar flares and eruptions will likely increase from now until 2025 as we reach solar maximum. Now, a lot of people, once they hear NASA, they say never a straight answer. They say, oh, it's them saying it, so I don't want to believe it. It's not just them. We have scientists all over the world, especially NASA's here. We're talking about worldwide as far as all of these different places looking at solar activity. And then you have whole groups, whole communities here on YouTube that have focused researching on all of the previous disasters that have happened on Earth due to the sun. In fact, most believe that most of the very most disastrous events that have happened here on Earth actually had something to do with a solar cycle or something that happened with the sun, a flare or something else that messed up our entire kind of the way that things were working down here on Earth. Again, This is something that is going to get worse according to many, not few. So that is another thing that a lot of folks are agreeing on, especially now. People, again, like we said earlier in the show, a lot of things regarding space are completely changing, falling apart, turning around. The one thing that's not is the solar studies. And now, in fact, more is being learned as far as what is going on. And they say that it is actually it's going to be worse than they thought, not better. So it's kind of weird that 2025 is the peak, and that's also when Deagle wrote that we would have this huge reduction in people on the planet. Just kind of creepy, if you ask me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Dex, you've been with me since a lot of these different events have happened. What do you think about as far as the sun being involved in a lot of these? And then just real quick, the planet's shortest day was just a few days ago or a week ago. That the Earth actually spun faster. The Earth has been for the last 5 years spinning faster, and people laughed at me when I said maybe that's why people are feeling like time is going faster. People go, "Oh, you need to get a shrink if you think time is going faster." They're not actually even looking at basic science. These are people that are probably educated and thinking that what I'm saying is stupid, when they're probably not educating themselves enough to understand the atomic clock and everything else that goes on, because it's not crazy to think that time could feel faster. We are electrical impulses. Our brains are electrical. Our hearts are electrical. What do you do when you start somebody back up? You shock them. So to think that if just a millisecond or a microsecond or a millisecond difference in a day could affect us, it possibly could. It possibly could. We could feel it. We have a sense of things that we can't even understand because they're instinctual. It's just like how time slows down when you get in an accident. There's things that our brain does that is absolutely amazing, and we're using what? How much percentage of our brain? Like 10% of our brain? So think about that. Maybe our bodies or we are starting to notice the difference in the day getting shorter. Just that millisecond could throw off all sorts of natural kind of rhythms inside of our body. Who knows? Dex, what do you think about all that?
Well, there's, I guess, some sort of connection there when you even think about the changes in the magnetic poles and how it affects wildlife, and we're all sort of connected in some way electrically to everything that goes on. So certainly anything could happen there. The other thing to think about, though, when it comes to these geomagnetic storms is, we've been here since the Carrington event. None of us have been alive since the Carrington event that whole time. It's so far back, but we've never seen a major power outage from a CME, but it can happen. But even if it's not that, imagine if our GPS systems alone, imagine if something like that was knocked out, how difficult, things would be. We're so technologically connected where all of these applications, all of this functionality, everything from transportation and trucking and package delivery to pizza delivery to Ubers to whatever, right? All of this stuff will not necessarily work or work well if something, even as mild as a storm that may not knock power out, but could take out satellite systems, right? So there's all sorts of effects, and we don't know. We'll never know. That's the great mystery of the sun, is we don't know what it's going to do, when it's going to happen. But we do get a little bit of a warning. Like, we can see a few days in advance before some of these things happen. So that is one advantage, but there's a lot of different things that can happen to us, and some of those can be pretty serious.
And mind you, people think, even if GPS goes out, trucks will still be able to drive. Uber will be able to break out a map, right? Well, when you think about it, the actual packages that you think you're going to get from, say, Amazon or some delivery company that's bringing you a package on a third party, the planes that actually take them from place to place, they may not be able to run, or the ships without their GPS now. The thing is we've put this heavy dependence on GPS. GPS is also how we are running infrastructure right now. There is a lot of infrastructure that actually not only has internet and, of course, is wired into this, the Internet of Things, But now, of course, with GPS and internet out, we're talking about a major disaster that the world has never seen. Not civilized world. Think about it. We've only had these high tech things in our lives for 30 years. Even less than that if you really want to say like high tech. So this is a new age. We are witnessing history. We hold computers in our pockets. This is insanity. Just in the 70s, you had computers that were the size of houses. Now they fit in our pocket. The same chip that they say, and again, this is one that I do have a lot of questions about. So say the moon landing, right? It even makes it even harder to believe when they say that the computer that actually powered the moon lander, the same chip that is in those happy birthday cards that you open up and sing happy birthday to you, that same chip is as powerful as the chip that was in the moon lander, or as power as the computing power that was in the moon lander. And it makes you think, well, and then we didn't go back when we had high-tech everything? It doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things that don't make sense in this world. But think about that. Your happy birthday card that you gave your brother, mother, son, or daughter, that has as much computing power as the moon lander. Or that's what they said, right? So this is a different world. And then Xi makes simulated attack on Taiwan. I just want to clear up. This is where we're getting into some of the wartime stuff. So if you are sensitive and you get freaked out easily, this is a volunteer show. You are an adult, or you most likely should be. I think 1% is under 18 here. You're an adult, so if you don't like scary movies, turn the scary movie off at this time. Don't say this is fear this, fear that, because nobody here is afraid. They want to know, and they're coming to us because we specialize in this kind of information. We are following it closely, and if we didn't follow it, then who would? There's other people, and again, you can go to any one of their channels too and say the same thing, or you could just choose a different kind of channel to watch. As far as what G is doing, I've been saying this for 5 years before anyone was talking about this. I showed you the patterns. I showed you where the money was going. I showed you, even when everything seemed absolutely fine, I was saying this, and people were like, oh, yeah, sure, we're doing all this trade. Through CV, we saw how quickly trade could stop, how quickly things could turn around, how quickly those ships coming in could just stop. And you could say, oh, well, it was because of the CV. Was it? What was the CV? What was all of this since 2019? What has been happening? We saw how quickly wheat could be held up. We saw how quickly gas could go up. We saw how quickly we could be locked down in our houses across the planet by the people above. Most people should get their head out of their butts by now and say, okay, yes, things can happen. Big, bad things. We were one of the first to cover the CV, and nobody thought I was at the first patient. If you're new here, you can go back. I visited the first U.S. patient in the entire thing. I was outside the hospital. I did drone shots of the hospital. I interviewed nurses coming out, and at the time they were told to pretend like they didn't know what was going on. Meanwhile, the news was saying that they were having robots and only a list of 3 worldwide specialists that were flown in to visit this patient. That's how bad it was. They said that Roby the robot was going in there and serving his banana pudding. At the same time, I was there, and nobody said it was going to be a big deal. And I said, look at the patterns. Look at the drills they did beforehand. I said, this is something big, and many of you prepared. And for those of you that have been here a long time, you're like, yeah, we know you did. A lot of new people don't realize that, or people say we didn't call anything. We've called a lot of things, and that's not because we have a crystal ball. That's because we're looking at the patterns with you and your help. The Foogle fam and the military in our group gives us great insight. We don't just take a message. If somebody watches a YouTube video, then emails us and says, the president is underground, and 20 people email us that same thing, we're not saying that we take that as information, because it could be based on a YouTube video that went viral or something on Before It's News or somewhere, right? It could be true, But again, we don't use that. What we use is when we get like 10 military members tell us the same exact thing, and it's real verifiable information. Things are getting worse, and people are still not waking up. It's human nature to not think that anything is going to happen. Look at the patterns. This looks like a setup to where Xi now has a made-up excuse, even if he's exaggerating what happened. Like, oh, this old lady flew over here, and now we're going to conflict. Doesn't make sense unless they knew what was going on. And, of course, the public's not going to know what she did over there. Some people think that she just went over there for money or trading or this or that. Either way, something is going down. And to do that and to bring carriers with her, it must have been important. Think about that. Not only the cost it took to fly her plane there, but to bring whole military Navy ships, carriers over there with her. Could you imagine that if you went and visited somewhere and they were like, oh, we're going to need to bring carriers? Think about that. Not like, oh, we're going to bring you a security detail. We're going to bring the whole damn Navy. That's insanity. And this looks like WW2. This looks like WW1. And people are still not thinking that there's going to be a WW3. I hope that there's not an all-out nuclear exchange. In fact, it could be drones versus drones. It could be they could wait until 10 years from now to use nukes, and they could actually have an old-school fist fight. But using drones and drones and drones and drones, it could end up being all millions of different ways. But look at what they're doing. A simulated attack on Taiwan, which we know that they're going to eventually take Taiwan, whether it be by force or by forcing themselves in, or say they pay off the right person in their structure, and then all of a sudden they just flip over and go, no, we think it's right that we join Xi in his prosperous ways. And then all of a sudden that current, president or prime minister or whatever it is goes, oh, well, I'm going to retire now, and I've got my $40 billion from Xi, so I don't care what happens to Taiwan. But if that doesn't happen, if they take them, period, we don't have chips, and then we will be we're pissing off the people that are essentially going to control it. We don't have a way to replace those chips yet. Jets crossed the strait's median line, ships shadowed each other, and communications between Beijing and Washington went silent on Saturday. So in just the last couple days, a lot of things have happened. Now they're not even answering calls. The Pentagon said that their calls are not being answered by Xi. Over the last couple years, we, of course, have seen the Xi embassy, when we even questioned that there might be a plan of some sort of huge conflict between us. Xi, actually, they burnt their documents in their embassy in the USA. Like, this is history repeating itself, and people aren't seeing this. They're training on areas that look like San Francisco, that look like the Bay Area, that look like Washington and the Puget Sound. They're training over actual landmasses that are identical. We're going to show you here in a second. They're doing more of the same as far as they're simulating things that are very, very specific. It says the ministry reported some of these forces crossed the median line in the de facto boundary between the island and the mainland. Taiwan sent alert broadcasts patrolling aircraft and the warships to counter the move, but it is not clear what the simulated attack targeted. It's a Saturday's mock attack is the latest episode in the Taiwan Strait since a visit last week by U.S. Speaker of the House, which again was the reason, right? That resulted in outrage from Beijing. It says the readers got caught up with what's happening so far heading into today's event's previous coverage. It says some 20 Xi aircraft and 14 ships operated near the Taiwanese coastline on Saturday, including Su-30s, 4 J-16s, and 4 J-11s, all flanker derivatives, as well as a Y-8 anti-submarine plane and a Y-20U tanker. At sea level, the Xi presence is in plain sight of the shoreline as Taiwanese ships parallel their counterparts. Satellite imagery also shows the shadow boxing in and around the declared exercise areas that encircle the island. Now, there's no fly zones over at something like 65% of the island. It says the U.S., and those are major actual paths that they were flying. So now they've got to zigzag through it. The U.S., Australian, and Japanese governments released a joint statement calling on Xi to end its exercises around Taiwan. However, reporting from Politico indicates that Xi isn't picking up the phone from Defense Department liaisons in Washington. This is a major issue as it drastically increases the potential for miscalculation, even if other roundabout means of communications are still available. It says the USS Ronald Reagan and the rest of Japan-based carrier strike group remain at sea northeast of Okinawa, and U.S. RC-135 Cobra Ball reconnaissance aircraft have flown sorties in the region monitoring Xi missile launches. All of this while Japan has tracked Xi drone flights around its Sakishima Islands and Taiwan. Another thing is those missiles that were launched not only went over Taiwan, they actually landed very close to Japan. Japan, of course, had their former Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, taken out by force. In fact, a guy walked up with a homemade bang bang and took him out right at a speech. What was his dream? Well, his dream was to actually take Japan away from their self-defense only constitution and to say, hey, we'll strike first if we need to. We need to stop being a defense-only country and jump in before there's a problem. And now, since his passing, his party actually got their way and actually had a lot of momentum because of that. So what is happening right now, and I said watch Japan. Japan is going to be a big part of this, just as in WW2, only now it will be different sides. This is really, really big stuff happening right now. And then Xi rehearsing sinking U.S. aircraft carriers with hypersonic missiles in Taiwan war games as WW3 fears loom. Now, before there's always going to be people talking about this, and that's because it has been such a vital kind of back and forth for years, but this has gotten bigger than ever. Now, Dex, I'm going to go over to you. We have talked about a lot of things. Can you think of any of the things that kind of relate to this as far as, we've talked about the previous practices, knocking out exact replicas or at least the shape and size of our carriers. Now they're simulating and doing this. They're rehearsing sinking our ships. What do you think about that?
We've definitely talked about what they built in their desert areas and out in the open for their practice runs, and now they're taking it to pretty much the next level. And this is sort of becoming, I guess, I don't want to call it the new norm, but it's the next step, right? They've gone from, behind the scenes doing practices to going near the ADIZ on Taiwan to now crossing over the boundaries to now launching things and also running these, rehearsals around sinking U.S. aircraft carriers. And so all of this is just taking it to a totally new level. I mean, these are all steps that you take as you move towards, full on, conflict. But, it seems like we're climbing those stairs rather quickly and getting to those points sooner rather than later with this. And it's not like things are just sort of holding steady and it's just somebody saber rattling. The steps just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's no different than what we saw even with UKR, right? It was a year before the invasion in February that they were there, and they went in and they were pushing the boundaries. They were running drills. They were doing practice. They were getting everything ready, and then boom, they slowly worked their way to, leaving equipment behind and then coming back, and then they actually did an invasion. So it's no different than that, in my opinion, when I think about how the actions we've seen and the build up to this point.
Well, that was my point too. When Vlad first put 100,000 troops there, the same things were being said. Oh, it's just drills. It's just this. They would never actually do it. And then there was so much question. There was so much divisiveness in all of media that people really didn't even believe that they were doing it. And part of that was propaganda on both sides. They didn't want you to know that they actually did it. They were hoping that they could back it out even after they went over the border. Now there is no solid information that people can trust. I mean, just like the previous stories here, people are going to be able to copy voices. Just regular people are going to go on an app and copy people's voices, and it'll be a parlor trick, right? Well, this is getting to the point where nobody can believe anything. And that's why I've been saying to people, don't believe us or anyone, believe your gut and be informed. If you are reading all of this, pick out what makes sense. Just like when you're reading an article, think about somebody saying it out loud. You can pick out lies. You can pick out when it doesn't make sense. Even if you're reading it, you can read mainstream and find out where the truth is and where the lies are by common sense. Some things just don't make sense in their stories. Think about that. And then you take a third and a fourth and a fifth source and you put together what you piece together is. But here's the problem, though. Most people don't have time to follow this all the way through. And that's why we do have a place here, because we are spending all of the time doing this so we can bring you our best opinion on it. But at the same time, I'm sure all of us have been tricked in the past. And that's why so many of us are burnt. We're burnt out on media because media is lying to us. That's why we show you the mainstream media and then question it directly. If nobody questions it, then people will end up reading it on their own time and they don't ask the question, and then they just accept it as fact. The things that are being written as history right now are the lies that we decided are right. Look at Wikipedia, for gosh sakes. Be Real B says, I want everyone to know you're loved and to keep whatever faith you have, sending prayers to be safe and God bless. Be Real Beast, thank you, and thank you for being here almost every show. I really do appreciate that. I appreciate all the regulars. Nancy B. Wild says, 3 months with the fam. Love y'all. Nancy B. Wild, thank you so much, and thank you for 3 months. Really, you've been here a lot too, so thank you so much. Sebastian Frankist, Yobi, another regular, Maui Racing Realtor almost every night, Renegade PD. Thank you, Mary XX, Penny Lane, R. Tate, Vicky K, thank you for gifting out badges. And of course, R. Tate, thank you for the diamond. Vicky K, thank you for the diamond. Chance Paladin, Chewy Weather. Chance Paladin, thank you for modding. And then a great comment over here. Let's see here. We have Peaceful Warrior Debbie. Thank you for the super sticker there. Applause. And then Joseph Newhouse, I heard the sun verily has wings, bro. The sun verily has wings. Verily. Barely or verily? I don't know. I'll have to Google that word or DuckDuckGo it. Oh, by the way, YouTube went down. The parent company here, the image part of the Oogs went down, and that's why we couldn't upload it wouldn't even let us get past the thumbnail, and I'm pretty sure it was because of that. Down Detector showed it that it actually had an issue with the images, and I wondered if it had something to do with T-Man and the whole deal going over on his golf course. If you don't know what happened, FBI raided his resort. Our former prez just got raided. Big things are happening right now. Christy, Battleborn Believer, glad I could finally make the live show this week. A little late, but better late than not at all. You made it for all of the good stuff, Christy, so there's even more coming. So stay tuned. And then Kenny Crowder and Kanos Kid, thank you guys. As far as the events going on there, people need to be paying attention. People need to wake up. People need to be talking to their families about basic plans. You don't need to be afraid. You need to just put a little aside a week, even if it's $2 a week, $3 a week, and get yourself some extra water, get yourself some extra food. Just work on a little bit at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself, and be responsible about it. All right, before we go over to Xi seizes on Pelosi visit to set new normal for Taiwan, and again, a lot of folks are now kind of picking up that it may have been like, it seems like this is a perfect reason for them to escalate and do all this. I do want to remind everyone, if you don't have long-term survival food, if you've always wondered or you don't know anything about it, you can actually get freeze-dried food that keeps most of its flavor, that it has a process that essentially sucks every bit of moisture out of the food, and then it's sealed and packaged to where it can last 25 years, and to bring it to life, you just add water or add sauce. In some cases, like, say, a freeze-dried steak, you can actually just cook it in barbecue sauce, and the moisture from that barbecue sauce will bring it back to life. Once you put the moisture back, you almost have the original meal from 10 years before, 25 years before. That is why freeze-dried are some of the best. Again, there's people that can and dehydrate to freeze-dried. I personally think freeze-dried is a little bit better, but I think both are options, and I do believe everybody could do it yourself if you have dehydrators and canning, and you can also freeze-dry yourself. But again, big freeze-dryers are like $4,000, at least the ones that could really get it done in an amount of time, right? Well, you can actually go and just get it done over at marfooglenews.com/prep. This is through My Patriot Supply, and what this is they actually have kits. So you can get a 72-hour kit that would be an emergency kit that has all the food for 3 days for one person. You could get a 1-month kit. That's $50 off right now. That has everything you need, 3 meals a day for one person for a month. Or you can get the 3-month kit, which is right now $150 off with our code. With this, we've already had so many people come forward and say that they ended up digging into their My Patriot Supply because of local disasters, from hurricanes to tornadoes to some, even in one case, an earthquake. They were able to go into their stash and actually just get food. In other cases, there were people that lost their job and ended up going back into their My Patriot Supply, and they ate it for a week until they could get their next paycheck. So another thing is you can always go into this, and we don't recommend you go eat your stash because this is for emergencies. But again, people, you may find that in 2-3 years, the prices on all of this freeze-dried food might be tripling, and the prices on regular food might triple. So if you have this now and you go later, this might be cheaper than going to the store. If loaves are going to get up to $10 a loaf, then you may be able to go to something like this and eat it instead in 3 years. But again, it is a good thing to have for all emergencies, not just SHTF, but for local disasters, floods, whatever else. These are sealed, the 1-month and 3-month in buckets that are sealed and then double sealed in their bags, and they're individually wrapped. It's really, really good. They have other stuff there too, all sorts of survival tools, anything you need to survive, they probably have it there. So go to marfooglenews.com/prep. It helps the channel. You get a discount. And of course, you are helping support and are the reinforcement and growth of our channel. So thank you guys. All right,
Adam.
Yes.
I just saw they have a flash sale running right now for the water filters. So if you guys buy like a 3-month supply, you can get the Alexa Pure water filter for free. So if you go to and you have to use our link to get to the website. So don't go trying to put the Marfoogle code in. That doesn't work. Just go to marfooglenews.com/prep or open the description and click the link. But when you go there, if you want this deal, I think it's only running for a day or two. I just saw it. Click on shop the rest of the store. So use our link, click on shop the rest of the store, and you should see that promo they're running right now. If you buy the 3-month of food, you'll get a whole Alexa Pure for free.
And the Alexa Pure is a gravity-fed water filtration. This is the one I've talked to about many, many times. Its competitors are, I'm telling you, they overprice a lot of their competitors. This is a fraction of the cost. It does all of the great stuff, and it gets rid of 99.9%, and it does a whole lot of water at a single time. So make sure to go check it out. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/prep. Okay, and then we have G seizes on the visit. Dex, you can cover this. This is essentially what you were saying. Which, by the way, I do want to point out, India News is covering a lot of this. Apparently, they are in like this battle again. When I'm getting to the point where I think that this is a lot of it's the show between India and G. But of course, the India kind of like very exaggerated news is saying that they're screwing over Xi and Xi is screwing over them. I do want to remind people that the troops still have not been brought back to the Himalayas to their argued over borders. So something weird is going on there with that. But Dex, what do you think about this?
Well, yeah, it's funny because we were talking about this. We've been talking about it all last week, and we've sort of been saying, hey, look, this is becoming the new norm. This is the next step, and now we're hearing this. It's not just our thoughts; it's coming out from mainstream, and they're sort of telling us that we should expect this to be the new norm, right? And the new norm meaning that these drills are going to be intensified. It's not just, one drill here and one drill there. It's 7 drills at a time encircling the island, right? Which basically means, any drill could turn into the invasion. You just won't know which one's going to be a drill and which one will be the invasion until it actually happens, right? And they're taking it to the next level, which is what we kept saying. So again, this is something we've been saying, but it's not just us, and that was our opinion when we were saying it. And now we're also seeing this come out from many other people, and lots of others are sort of saying like that this was a major milestone, if you want to call it that, or at least it's a major point in the escalation of the conflict with her visit that sort of resets the game. And so as we continue to talk and continue to report and continue to watch, it's less likely that we're going to see a de-escalation from this, and this will become the norm, and we're going to see it grow from here. And we know this to be, sort of the path, because we've reported so many times that Xi says, yes, absolutely, we will take Taiwan, and if we have to, we will take it with force. I'm sure they've got lots of ways they would love to take it without force, just like they did in Hong Kong, where they went in politically and did certain things to turn the rule of law there and take over what they wanted faster. I don't know that that's going to actually play out in Taiwan, because it's just they're so they're a separate island, and B, they're dead set on being completely separate, and they believe that their population believes that they stand behind it, they train for it, they have huge forces, nowhere near as big as Xi's forces, but still very large. So we're destined to see a conflict here, at least, similar to what we've seen in UKR. The real question is, how long will it last? Who will be involved? What will our role be in it? We've heard lots of different communications in the past over whether or not we'll support them, or will we just sit on the sidelines and, ship in billions of dollars of equipment every 3 weeks like we do in Europe. But that's coming. I mean, if you don't see the writing on the wall, then maybe you've got your head in the sand.
Yeah, and we've been talking about it for so long that people say, oh, you're talking about what the mainstream is talking. We've been talking about this way before anybody was talking about it. The patterns are there, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Speaking of patterns, it's become a pattern lately that these very influential men have been just passing away in their hotel rooms, especially the ones that control, like, defensive systems or, say, armies and militaries. They've just been passing away like crazy. Top Taiwan missile official found perished in his hotel room after a heart attack. I needed the echo, and it just wasn't there. Heart attack. I separated that and echoed it so it would be exaggerated. I had to explain it, so it probably didn't have the same effect. Do you believe that this is a heart attack? Or do you believe it was something other? A top Taiwanese missile official was found in a hotel room on Saturday morning after suffering a heart attack, according to the country's official central news agency. Yang Li Hisheng was deputy head of the National Chung-Shan Institute of Science Technology, which is owned by the Taiwanese military and is the Defense Ministry's research and development unit. So they come up with the designs that will end up defending their island. Taiwanese authorities said that there was no sign of an intrusion in the hotel room of southern Taiwan where the 57-year-old perished. According to CNA, he was in charge of supervising various missile production projects. It says, Young's family said he had a history of heart problems and also had a cardiac stint. I didn't mean to echo the stint part, but... So, one thing is... So, one thing that governments are good at doing is doesn't matter if the guy was 400 pounds or 200 pounds or a little bit overweight, or if he had a history or a car accident with a leg injury, they could have said, oh, the leg injury ended up turning into a cancer, this or that. You know what governments and agencies are really good at? Making it look like an accident or making it look like it's natural causes. So just because somebody has a cardiac stent or something, that I just question everything, especially when they're in the position that they are. By the way, I would love to hear what is actually happening with the guy who took out Shinzo Abe. You know, we didn't hear anything past that first day. Did that guy get sentenced? Is he somewhere where the people know where he's at and can actually go see him in there? I wonder, like, if something like that was an operation by another country, you know, if he was a citizen of somewhere else, could they grab him and say, oh, we're going to extradite him and then let him out on, like, you know, their own witness protection program type thing? I just wonder what happens. We've had so many attempts at people's lives lately. It's crazy. And then just a few months ago at a hotel, some other guy was thrown off a roof. It's like, okay, yeah, they're just all accidents. He tripped and then stumbled 47 feet, and then he just happened to fall down over the 8-foot wall and then down 70 stories to his untimely death. You know, because he was made of flubber. Vlad has seen 70,000 to 80,000 casualties in attack on UKR, Pentagon says. Essentially, anything out of any source, we have no idea if it's true. So these numbers are just like whale sounds. Because who knows if they're true. It says that there's that the Vlads are taking a tremendous number of casualties. Defense Department Undersecretary for Policy told reporters, there's lots of fog in conflict, but I think it's safe to suggest that the Vlads have probably taken 70 or 80,000 casualties in less than 6 months. Okay, so how did they come up with that guess? That's the only question I have. Like, where did they come up with these numbers? Do they have satellite pictures of the people that are perishing, or what is that? It says now that is a combination of KIA and wounded in action, and the number might be a little lower, a little higher, but I think it's kind of in the ballpark. How do they make a ballpark if they're not involved at all, unless this involves UKR intelligence? You see what I mean? They don't tell you how they get this information. It says the Vladian casualty figure is higher than previous U.S. estimates. CIA Director William Burns late last month estimated about 15,000 Vladians have died in UKR, and some 45,000 have been wounded. So that's a big difference in a month. Basically, this person is saying 70 to 80,000. There is no perfect number. Battlefield casualties are always a range. So it's basically like, hey, let's tell you some info that's not confirmed whatsoever, and then spread it over all of the media. That's why you got to question everything. Vlad gives order for Vladians to deploy nukes in UKR, claims Kremlin insider. So this is one that people are very nervous about. But I would say question, the validity of everything. At this point, there's a lot of saber rattling, but at some point, if this does get worse, I mean, it's not too crazy to think that they might use a small tactical yield nuke in UKR. If any of what they're saying is true, if they're on the back end of it, or if they're losing in any way, I don't know what to believe at this point. But I do know that this is coming from somebody who, has been right before, at least. It says one of the Vladian President Vladimir Putin's closest aides has warned him that the West is seeking to destroy Russia. The worrying message came from the former President Dmitry Medvedev and was part of a rant about using nuclear weapons in UKR. He is now the deputy head of Vladian Security Council. And of course, it says, according to local media reports, he has betrayed the West, acting in an extremely aggressive geopolitical assault on Moscow. It says, quote, their goal is the same, to destroy Vlad's country, he warned. It says that this is the root cause of the aggressive Russophobic geopolitical process initiated by the West. It says, as in the case of Georgia, the Americans deliberately strengthened the feeling of impunity in Kiev, pumped him with weapons, encouraged the taking of lives of civilians in Donbass. And now they continue to exercise with UKR and, quote, the fate which they absolutely do not care. The goal is the same, to destroy Vlad's country. His bunker mentality came as a Vladian opposition source said that the warmonger President Putin has not abandoned, quote, the options for using nuclear weapons in UKR. And then it says the Putin supporting General SVR Telegram channel also claimed that Vlad has given direct orders to prepare such options. So there's multiple sources on their end saying that they've done this. Now, that could be to scare any other given side. This could be done as propaganda. This could be done for a lot of different reasons. I guess from a prepper standpoint, many people look at it as, even if it's a 0.1% chance, we look at it as a possible option. We could be lied to every which way, but again, we could also be being told the truth for once. Who knows? So, Dex, as far as the source, it's Medvedev, and he has called several things. What do you think?
Well, yeah, Medvedev is the one saying that the West is coming for Vlad's country, and then there's another inside source that's saying the options haven't been taken off. So what they've explained more specifically is that he has called for numerous options. He says, give me these XYZ options that I can use, and then he picks the one he wants to use, and then he unwinds the others. But in this case, he has chosen a couple of these options, and he's using one, but not unwinding this one. In other words, he's leaving it on the table in the sense that they are either have moved or will be moving stuff into place so that he can use this option. And all he has to do is say, yes, let's go, as opposed to ramping up. So they basically prepare multiple scenarios, multiple options for him, and then he picks what he wants to move forward with, and then he can choose other options as he goes. But he did not unwind this one, and it is still there. It's still on the table, and it's fully prepared and ready to roll.
Well, with time will tell. Danish Girl, hey, wow, thank you for the massive support, Danish Girl. If that was an accident, YouTube will fix it. Sometimes people accidentally add a number or they do that stupid scroller. But either way, whether it's 9 or 99, I appreciate you. And Danish Girl, thank you for supporting Independent. Let's see. There's a reason why it takes 2 months for those to get to us. So if there's any issues, you can always fix it. Hi, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Always here, live show, or watch later. Some of the comments are very informative, and some are so funny. Love the show. Thank you, Danish Girl, and welcome. And thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting Independent. And again, I believe that puts you in the top spot. Mystery School, happy birthday to Naughty Beaver, who introduced me to y'all in 2019. Much love. Be safe, y'all. How is Naughty doing, by the way? I have not checked in on it. And at some point, I don't know. It's weird how the algorithm will just stop recommending you someone, and you have so many people that you watch that you forget about some. Naughty has always been very polite to us and really, really a nice guy to us. So I do appreciate Naughty Beaver. I hope he is doing all right. I hope he didn't get knocked off or anything. I know a lot of people have in the last 2 years. Tagutika Tuck Pup, a.k.a. lurking in the background always. Be safe and be smart. Hey, thank you so much. And then Joseph Newhouse, new video, true or false? Is it your real voice? If you're going to do it, I would highly recommend fitting in that other Robbinswood. I think it's called Robbinswood. Look up the app that people have been using already. You program the voice for like 20 minutes and it's already able to do it. FG, check my email, FG in subject. Okay, FG, I will right after the show. Thank you for getting back to me on that. And then Be Real Beast, I want everyone to know you're loved and to keep whatever faith you have. Sending prayers to be safe and God bless. Be Real Beast, again, thank you. All right, and then before we talk about the money, and remember I said the more that UKR has any kind of bad things happen, then boom, we send money. I just want to remind you real quick, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Anything that you want to keep running after all three phases of an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, or a CME, if we do have another Carrington level event, there is a way to protect your car. There is a way to protect your generators. There is a way to protect your house, your boat, your SUVs, your of course, your motorcycles, and even your ham radio. They make one for almost every system that has a motor, that has an electrical device. They have a way to protect it. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. And again, now, in the last year, they have now a Energy solar generator EMP shield. In fact, Energy is the only solar generator that can be equipped with a very specific EMP shield made just for it. So that's marfooglenews.com/EMP. You will get $50 off per device, and that stacks on top of any other sales that are going on there. So make sure to get over there now. marfooglenews.com/EMP. The car version is the most popular and the easiest to put in at about 10 minutes install time. That way your car runs when no one else's does. And then we have U.S. pledges $1 billion more. U.S. pledges $1 billion more in rockets, other weapons for UKR. Massive arms shipment hope to bolster UKR counteroffensive, turn the tide of conflict. But yet they say turn the tide because it's going bad right now. So they say, oh, we'll send another $1 billion. Meanwhile, Americans are barely getting by. The B administration said Monday it was shipping the biggest yet direct delivery of weapons to the UKR as the country prepares for a potentially decisive counteroffensive in the south against Vlad, sending $1 billion in rockets, ammunition, and other material to UKR from Defense Department stockpiles. The new U.S. arms shipment would further strengthen UKR as it mounts the counteroffensive, which analysts say for the first time could allow Kiev to shape the course of the rest of the conflict, now at the half-year mark. Kiev aims to push Vladian troops back out of Kherson and other southern territory near the Dnipro River. Vlad in recent days was moving troops and equipment in the direction of the southern port cities to stave off the UKR counteroffensive. At every stage of this conflict, we have been focused on getting the UKRs what they need, depending on the evolving conditions on the battlefield. It says, of course, the new U.S. aid includes additional rockets for Lockheed Martin Corps' LMT, high-mobility artillery rocket systems, HIMARS, as well as thousands of artillery rounds, mortar systems, javelins, and other ammunition. Also, it's going to provide, in fact, I think this is... Yes, so, and by the way, so did you notice Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, these are 4 out of 5, and I know I'm missing one. These companies are making so much money. It's not funny. You don't have these companies that are directly tied with government offices. I mean, you're talking about the people that are on the boards for these companies are directly in positions that, supposedly people picked them and put them in, right? Why are there so many people in the government also not only invested, but on the boards of these 5 military companies? Why are these military generals at the same parties with the presidents and the leaders and the shamans and the prime ministers? And in that shipment, they also confirmed air-launched anti-radiation missiles sent to UKR. Now, when I first heard about this, I thought anti-radiation, like but apparently it's for communications, to knock out communications. Radio waves, radiation, basically these very specific AGM-88s are being fired at Vladian radars. It said that Colin Call, who we just talked about, have transferred unspecified anti-radiation missiles to the UKR armed forces that they can launch from at least some of their existing aircraft. Though Call did not say what type of missiles had been passed to the UKRs, his remarks follow the emergence of pictures on social media showing the apparent remains of AGM-88 high-speed anti-radiation missiles, or HARM. Yes, it will do harm. Said to have been fired at the Vladian positions. You can read more about this on the website, marfooglenews.com, and find the rest of the article. Now, I definitely want to point out, of course, Vlad has been making the point, and their government has been saying that the U.S. is directly involved in the UKR conflict. The more that we send over, the more argument he has to his actual local people that we are basically, fighting him through a proxy in this place. We are using our satellites. Our satellite technology is what's targeting his ships. It's our HIMARS that are taking out his people. It's our equipment that is taking out people. Ours and, of course, everybody else's, but ours is doing the most damage. And ours uses, and by ours, the U.S., are using, the satellite systems that, of course, we run. So at some point, one thing may go over that kind of line, and that's where you get into a direct confrontation. What do you think, Dex, as far as them? Do you think they're going to take out some communications and then they're going to get pissed and say that we're directly responsible, or what?
Well, they already have. I don't know how much that line, that red line was put out there, and we've crossed it numerous times. So I'm not sure how much of that is a hard and fast rule for them, or if it's just one of those things that as it gets worse and worse, that they get more desperate and they move on to plan B, which is the tacticals that we talked about earlier. The other thing that comes to mind, though, is one of the key things that we talked about in the prior article was the administration ordered this to come out of our stockpiles. So, our stockpiles are for ourselves. So if we need that and we don't have it, yes, it's $1 billion, but it's not $1 billion that we went and bought. In this case, it's just we're giving away $1 billion worth of our goods that we had sitting for our own use. So if we're depleting our own resources, or in this case, our own gear that we need, or weapons, when we do get in a scenario where we need it, will we have it? I don't know. Maybe we've got, $1 trillion worth of missiles sitting there, so $1 billion is nothing, right? I don't know the actual the numbers of what that number means, but it just makes me think, and in addition to that, even if it is something that costs $1 billion and we want to replace it, who's paying for it? Who's paying for all these billions that have gone over there? We all are.
Yeah, somebody just put out a thing of how much each American that pays taxes puts. I think it's like 70% of our taxes goes towards the military. And think about that. And then you think about all these government officials that are involved in these companies, the 5 main companies. All of these 5 companies get all of the contracts, 100% of the contracts for all of the military that's all around the world. 5 companies. That seems like borderline monopoly, right? And they all work together. They all, do projects together. Lockheed Martin and Boeing and of course Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, and the list keeps going on. So it's getting to the point where, when are we going to be directly involved in this? All right, and then Dex, before you go over the web only, we have a ton of stuff. I do want to remind people, you can go over to marfooglenews.com/offgrid and get yourself a bag that will actually block from any kind of tracking or tracing. Make sure to go over and check that out. All right, and then let's go into the web only. And we've got tons of stuff that did not fit into the show, including T-Man getting under siege. And we didn't have enough information, basically, essentially what happened is
Yeah.
FBI went in there, and while he was not there, they even broke into his personal safe, and they're trying to pin something on him right now. So something big is happening.
Yeah, exactly. He was in New York. This happened. With the other information I gathered right before the show was that the officials knew about it in advance. At least the high level FBI officials knew about it in advance. So they were planning this. He didn't know about it, obviously. But this went down. We don't know exactly why. There's been some speculative reports about what they were looking for from the National Archives and potentially, things that were taken that shouldn't have been, or et cetera, et cetera. That's been talked about before in the media. So, but this is a big event. It's definitely one that everybody is talking about, everybody's up in arms about, and everybody's looking at. So go check it out. Hey, there's a lot of other stuff going on too. So there's a big bill that's about to get passed. I think it's passed the House and Senate, so it's about to get signed, I should say. That one has a lot of things happening, but not a lot happening for you and me. And when I say you, I mean the Foogle fam. It seems like it's a lot for a lot of other people, and specifically a lot of agencies. So there's updates on the web only there specifically about some of the things that they're trying to do, like certain agencies with a 3-letter that you don't really think much about when it comes to things like ammunition and stuff like that, who has been stockpiling them and who is trying to buy more and is getting more out of this new bill that's getting passed. That and a whole lot more. So again, I forgot to tell you what we're talking about. So head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or on YouTube, open that description and click on show notes. It'll take you right here to the page. You want to scroll down past all the news we just covered and get to this overflow section where the rest of the story is. Some of the stuff we just couldn't get to. Some of it's early breaking and we don't have enough information on it. We basically just covered everything we knew about it right now. But all of this is here. So this is the rest of the story and what's going on. So in addition to those high things, there's a lot going on in the political world that will continue to be covered here, especially as we move forward into the what's happening in the latter half of this year. This will obviously be front and center. There's toilet bowl stories that are going on. There's things happening with SA, the country over in the ME, and lots of other things with our administration, with past administrations, and as well as even an update on like the heat. I know we talked about heat in Texas over and over again. It's obviously now hitting Europe very hard, and some other things that are going on. So if you want to get the rest of the story, head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open that description on YouTube and click on the first link. It says show notes. It'll take you right here and you can see everything else.
And by the way, if you saw the toilet bowl pictures, it looks like a 4th grader wrote on a piece of paper and it's in the bottom of the toilet. I'm like, what is there any confirmation? Like, what if it was a list of like all of the foods he wasn't supposed to eat and hiding from his wife or something? I don't know. It just, it's pretty crazy. They're just coming up to crazy levels.
It's not even gold plated. It's not even fancy enough, right? Shouldn't it be a prettier bowl than that?
Yeah, doesn't he have like golden toilets or something?
I don't know if these are pictures from the
he didn't even have a bidet.
Prior to, if this is from the White House or if this is from his residence, but it's a pretty boring looking toilet for, the leader of the free world.
It looks like a Motel 8 toilet. I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure he at least has like a nice seat or something. The guy has gold statues. He has whole buildings made out of gold. Most of his residences have the fanciest of everything. And you're telling me he puts, where is that in his, in his maid's quarters or something? That's the only place I could see it being. Like, I would see him not, going gold on the maid's quarters, but who knows?
Hey, quick comment on Nancy's trip. Everybody talks about like, how much military had to go and all that. Here's the thing that I think about is what was the carbon footprint of that bill?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
they
just
talk about flying consumer or flying private jet. This is we're rolling in with an entire military to take a 18-hour trip to a country.
You know what I just thought about it? I saw a thing in it was a Safeway, and it said we're reducing our carbon footprint, and it was a big old ad on the screen of the self-checkout. And then I literally buy, and does anyone ever use these damn things? You get your receipt, and then you always wait, and it prints out a 4-foot freaking piece of paper of coupons that I'm assuming are targeted towards the number you put in. But man, it's like a 4-foot thing of paper, and I have never used those things. And it's always like a hassle. Like you grab it, and then it's like grabbing junk mail out of your mailbox. It's like, what am I gonna do with this 4-foot thing of coupons? Now I know some people do use those, but it never almost ever applies. Every time I look at it, it's like, I'm buying cereal, and it's something for like, feminine products or something that I don't use, and I'm like, this is just something I'm gonna throw away. But I just thought it was ironic. I'm reading it says we're reducing our carbon footprint, and then I just see this thing come out like. Look through the whole thing, and it's summer breeze for women. I don't need that. Or do I? Have a good night, guys. It's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
Give you love, not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down. No man can give you love, not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down. No man can give you love, not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down.
Just want to thank Dex J, Murphy's Law, Gail Goodrich, Belinda, Casse, Starshine, Jstone78, thank you for modding. Thank you, Lisa R. Hall, Jay Hino, Casual Preparedness, Devon Cutmore, Danish Girl, thank you.
Danish girl, gonna back down. Everybody gonna back down. And the long man dead comes up and down. Everybody gonna love you now. El Chivago, they hate you for coming back another week. Within the mama of 6 in America first. Diongo, I said, Diongo, I said, Diongo, I said. Danish girl, I said Danish girl, Danish girl, I said Danish girl, Danish girl, I said Danish girl, I said Danish girl, Danish girl, Danish girl, I said Danish girl, I said Danish girl, Danish girl. I said Danish on, I said Danish girl. We the Derabile and the Joe and the W back. I swear, where. And then all the other people coming back now. See, if it's a BS and they don't have proof, then all of you come back. Ignite shit's no red, ever. Got the guacaholic and the boop boop. I said the boop boop, I doop doop. I said W-I-S Jan, Scooby Doop Doop.
Scooby-Doo do right, thank you, says appreciate you. I appreciate you, Scooby-Doo. Thank you so much for being here. Long time. Murphy's Law, another old school Foogle fam. Thank you so much. You are absolutely amazing, Murphy. Android Architect, Joanna W, of course. The wonderful mods, Stealth Mode. I love you guys. Letitia Stoll, thank you. Joanna W, everybody. Lisa Knutson, of course. Deep State of Mind.
No man can give you love, not like that man up above. wicked world, wicked world, a wicked world. Everybody gonna be in a wicked world. Wicked world, wicked world, a wicked world. Everybody gonna be in a wicked world. Wicked world, wicked world, a wicked world. Everybody gonna be in a wicked world.
Looking down. No man can give you love, not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down. We must manifest a new timeline that adds up everybody is, that's fine. Then it on that Mars will fade away. Got a mama of 6 and a my blue sky, a major and a Philbilly high. Oh, I just wanna see the tinfoil hat. Gotta be cold, or do I? Everybody gonna say ooh I and the woo-hoo. Everybody gonna die. Ooh, got Scooby-Doo do right, tongue is fire. Judy's back and hold back desire. Just a new house, so he said the man. Yes, Danish streets is all we miss when we leave all of this behind. No man can give you love, not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down. No man can give you love, not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down. No man can give you love, not like that man up above, sitting in his clouds looking down. Oh.